Hello, everyone, and welcome to State of the Realm. We got the benchmark last weekend, and so we're going to talk a little bit about that, and we're also going to be starting a series of discussions about hopes and dreams for job changes coming up. I know we don't have to wait that much longer. May 16th is the next letter from the producer live, which will at least give us some drops, and they've officially stated the media tour will be taking place in the second half of May, so it'll be soon, but we got to speculate. Now is prime speculating time. So without further ado, let's get started. I'm one of your hosts, Mr. Happy, and of course joining me, as he does every week, now with a mint julep in hand, twice in a row, is Sly. How are you doing?
You know, I kind of don't like prime, speculating time. I'm not a fan of it. I'm not a fan.
Why not?
Sly, what do you think about this job? Sly, Mr. Happy, what do you think about this? Like, look, I don't know yet. I don't know anything.
I don't know. No, that's the point. That's why it's called speculation, Sly.
I don't want to speculate.
Well, too bad, because that's what we're doing today. And we're going to be kicking off our role-based discussion with Phys-ranged. Since I play that, we'll do melee next week for Sly, and then we'll go into the categories we know less about. And so we bring in the mad machinist himself, Saren, for that. How you doing, Saren?
I'm good, man. A little bit less mad lately. Ever since 6.3, when they finally realized that Machinist still exists. Getting Dismantle back was pretty big. We've had like the biggest overall buffs over the entire expansion. You know, it took a while, but we kind of got there. But there's still more work to do.
Yes, and you and I have had that discussion a handful of times already.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Every time in Machinist, always with Stall, Bard comes up, with you, Machinist comes up, and I guess I'm the dancer of the trio.
Someone has to love dancer, and it's not me.
Love is a strong word.
I love you as a dancer, Happy.
I mean, I got moves. What can I say?
Yeah. I
got it.
Yeah. Plus partner.
Yeah. Somebody has to. Of course, the melee's over here like, I love the dancer. What are you talking about?
I love the dancer. Hell yeah. Like, why wouldn't I? Yeah.
It's like, wow, Dismantle. That's really cool for everyone else. So dance partner anyway. All right. Before we get started, shout out to the sponsors over on Patreon for supporting. They don't have to support. They choose to. Content's available for free. Funny thing. Somebody pointed out about 15 minutes ago, as of the recording of this, that I never uploaded last week's show. I did, but I must have deleted it at some point by accident because I uploaded it overnight and never made it public, but it's also not on YouTube anymore.
Somebody pointed that out to me like yesterday. I'm like,
well, then why didn't you tell me? Why didn't they point it out to me?
I thought you had it in hand. I'm like, well, maybe Happy's got it in hand. I'll leave it to him. He takes care of the tubs. He's got it.
Should have let me know, Sly.
Apparently you didn't.
Nope, not at all.
Apparently you didn't.
Nope. Yeah, so that's going up right after this, and this will go up tomorrow. So double header, I guess. So much for a show every week. Technically true still, just not on the video and audio side. So my bad. So with that, it's an interesting week of discussion about a handful of things. I think we'll start with what we got last, what was it, Sunday? We got it, I want to say.
Yep.
For the benchmark. Yeah. We'll start with the benchmark discussion. I think this has been it has been the most anticipated benchmark, I think, of all of them, as it represents not only the female Hrothgar, which people were looking forward to, but the graphic update, our first actual peek at it. And it had mixed reception, I think is a fair thing to say. Saren, since you're our guest, why don't you give us your experience with it and how much... I'm not 100% sure how much you cared or how strongly you felt about it, but let everyone else know.
As with all things, I err on the side of caution with things like this. Obviously, I gave more of a shit about this benchmark than any other. My PC can run it fine, thank God. But, since all the discourse about how things look, especially in character creation, I sat on the side of the fence that was all about look, character creation is shit. Like the lighting is really old. It does, it clearly doesn't look any different to how it was in previous expansions. So like maybe something's missing. Like I gave the analogy when everyone was like going off on the forums and Twitter and stuff about like, say you walk into a dark room, and in that dark room, like one wall is like bright red, but you don't see that because the room is dark. You turn up the light a bit, suddenly you see like a maroon red shade. You turn up the light fully, then you see a bright red wall finally. And so my point was that like it may just be due to different lighting and then like the different textures that you need to use the free Fantasia to tweak to make things look more like how you envisioned your old character, or like the old look, if that makes sense. And given the update today, like I'm not right very often, but I'm glad I was this time because a lot of people are freaking out about stuff. And it turns out that character creation is in fact really old, and therefore things do look scuffed. And yeah, it's just better to wait. Like I always thought that when we go into Dawn Trail, like things are gonna look better. Like you go and stand in Limsa, like I think things will look closer to how they should because that's already done. But character creation still just looked exactly the same to me. So I looked at my character and thought, okay, she looks kind of brain dead. But well, unfortunate. I'm sure Dawn Trail will be fine. And yeah, so I'm glad that like they're at least listening. It's nice to know the devs are listening, and it looks like although people were coping about more options and stuff in character creation, look, that's not happening. Okay, it's just not going to happen. But I think by the updated benchmark or Dawn Trail release, then things will look better.
It's an interesting thing because Sly and I had this discussion last week about the benchmark releasing, the timing of its releasing. And Sly, do you remember how that conversation went in regards to the benchmark and how it was going to look and how finished it was going to be?
Somewhat of that conversation, yeah.
Yeah.
I was mainly just curious about my score and everything. That was the only thing I really gave a shit about, which most people just gave a shit about. But yeah, what were you gonna say, Humps?
I was gonna say that the big point that I said last week is that I think they might release an update. Like this was before it came out. I was already thinking about them releasing an updated benchmark before even seeing it in the first place. Because in Stormblood they released the benchmark at about this time. And in Shadowbringers, they waited till after the combat live letter. And that was because they had 2 new races. So they wanted to make sure they were like as close to finished as possible. So I wondered if finished. Yeah. As close to. I said as close to. All right. That's my disclaimer. And then, and obviously Endwalker is a wild card. It was out like 3 months before the expansion, so nobody can really use that as a measure of anything. But this time I was like, I wonder which way they're gonna go with it. Are they gonna release it super early, which they did, and get people knowing if their systems work like Sly wanted, or are they gonna focus on the characters looking as good as possible, which would mean they release it later? And the best solution was to do both, and that's exactly what they're doing. They released it early, and now people can test their machines, and then it gets updated for the characters later.
So do you think it was intentional, or do you think it was a mistake to overlook this?
I think it wasn't even a mistake. It just wasn't even on their radar. I don't even think they thought about it. I mean, by their own admission, they just said neglected. Like they didn't even consider it.
I thought that I think they saw some feedback coming because this was the first time that we as players could live test the new graphics rather than just seeing slides upon slides and hours of discussions of Lalafell chins. But I don't think they predicted this much. So maybe they might have hoped that they could avoid it, but since people are complaining so much, they want to make people happy before release.
And that only works in their favor. So at the end, I think it's all a win. Despite the post today looking like an L, I think it's more of a W.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's good in the long run.
Mm-hmm. We do have a history of getting things on release in beta form. in 14.
Especially Endwalker.
Dude, I'm thinking all the way back to Diadem 1.0. I'm like, yeah, we definitely beta tested that one. That's for certain. And then the full release was not any better. It's 4 patches later.
I saw some people dooming. Well, not saw some people dooming, but like rather we speculated like would this cause a delay to Dawn Trail itself? But I thought like nah, this is separate. Like Dawn Trail development is separate to the benchmark. Like surely not, right?
Yeah, no. Big thing to note is that the benchmark on top of it having this concern with the actual character creation that's not updated. Those things are normally at least 6 to 8 weeks old to boot. So anything they've done since, we wouldn't really know. Now, that's never an excuse for saying like, oh, it's fine. It'll be fixed. Don't do that. But it is something to at least bear in mind. You know, even previous years' media tours, I remember, I think Shadowbringers we played it in May, and we knew that it was a build from like March, for example. So they had already done 2 months worth of tuning and adjustments by the time we got that. So it just kind of happens with this stuff because it's go through like approval processes and stuff. But I think in this case, the feedback worked out well. Whatever they are working on updating on top of like what they were already doing plus this, I don't think that results in anything. I mean, we saw what it looked like in game, and we were like, yeah, no, we're good. I'm good with that. So
yeah, I'm really looking forward to it overall. I'm one of those people that didn't even think the game needed it. That might be a hot take, but I like how the game looks now. Sure, it could absolutely look better, and at some point it needs to keep up with current standards. But then, like, my issues of the game come into play. Like, okay, so we're updating the graphics, but then where's the update to social systems and stuff? You know, things that are even older. You know, it's nice to make the game look prettier, and like I guess it's necessary, but I think other things should be updated along with it.
Hey, we're getting a blacklist update. That's something.
Yeah,
I mean, it's good and all. I just hope there's more to it than that. Like it's part of the social system, so fingers crossed it's on their radar at least.
Friends list next.
Yeah, literally. My God, I'm not gonna start. I'm not gonna start ranting about that. Otherwise, we'll get off track. But
Off track is our middle name, right, Sly? I send Sly into a drinking frenzy half the time. He comes prepared now. That's what the mid julep is for.
Oh no, it's just because I wanted the mint julep.
Yeah, well, the second drink is then on me. If there ever is a second drink. Yeah, not last week, but you know. Once we get into some new stuff, Sly, I'm sure I'll have plenty of, so I've already refrained from the happy joke once this show. And I do keep track.
I keep track too. I'm proud of you.
You say that makes me happy, and I go, no, I'm happy.
No, stop. Please.
Sly, and just so you know, Sly judges our guests based strictly on whether or not they like that joke. So you're on his side right now.
It's a dad joke, therefore not a fan.
Good job. Good job.
All right, 2 against 1. That's fine. I'll still do it because I can, but we'll see. Gonna break that, man. I could do one with that. Not gonna do it. That's it. So while the benchmark. So first of all, what did everyone score? On what settings? I guess.
I was on maximum DLSS. I tested it twice. Once just with nothing else running and got 17.8. And then I did bandwidth test under OBS and then did it again and it was 15.6-ish. So we're good. Not the best, but we're good.
Sly?
Gotta go back to my post. I did it under 1440p with my usual game settings and 24,242. And that's not with bandwidth. So I'm assuming with bandwidth that would have probably been like, a little bit lower, which is within
Yeah.
reason. But
Easily fine.
and that's with DLSS. Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say bandwidth didn't really change mine at all. I was like just 17,000 across both on full max with DLSS. So that was just it. It was just the same. But I actually ran it because I actually play games 60 FPS cap most of the times because I don't like fluctuating, even if it's between like 110 and so when you run. So the big thing is if you run the benchmark at 60, you're max out at about 8,500 no matter what, because there's only so many frames that can be rendered in the first place. And that's for those who don't understand how the benchmark scoring works. It's judging it based on frames rendered. So if you have any limitation set to your frames, you're automatically lowering your score.
I saw the graph like doing a lot of this. Like, was that frame drops or was it just stuff? Like, I don't really know. I didn't really understand it. I like to think I'm quite tech savvy, but I didn't really understand what the benchmark was measuring, honestly.
Yeah, it was essentially put strain on the resources, and then it just tries to render frames like it would in the game. So like, you know how when you press escape, it has your FPS on the top right? Yeah, it's just measuring that value, whatever it is. So like, for example, during really low intense areas, I had 240, just flatline 240. As soon as it gets into stuff, it maybe dips down to like, 120, 150, something really intense, maybe 90. And then it's just using that as part of a calculation to judge what your actual score is going to be.
I presume mine was pretty high frame rate because I could hear my GPU taking off out of my window. So I think it was working hard. So yeah, I assume it was perfectly fine.
Yeah, I was like, mine should use more. Like my CPU usage was like not even like 20% while I was running the benchmark, and I'm like, can you try harder? Like,
run faster.
Maybe that's why I didn't notice anything with the bandwidth test, because it was just like. And my computer is like, I'm not going to. I don't need to try any harder. That's it.
Oh, that's a good point from Chad, actually. I was running at 1080p as well. I'm one of those people, I'm fine with 1080p. I don't need higher, so.
1080p as well. I play 1080p windowed specifically on a 1440p monitor, and I keep my chat directly to the left of the game. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Smart.
And then everything else is on the second monitor. Anything I need to multitask is on the other one. So same here. Then 1080p. Yeah. 17K just across the board. I'm running a 3080 and AMD Ryzen 5800X. So
I got a 3070 Ti and a 3700X. Getting a bit old, but still fine.
More than
3080 Ti. 3080 Ti i9 9900K.
I got lost on what you were trying to say there, Sly.
Numbers.
Bit of a tongue twister for me.
Yeah.
Hey, you had the highest score though, so who cares if you can say it in one try?
Yeah. Technically, like old generation fucking CPU though.
That's fair. 24K is 24K, not 1440. Ain't nobody complaining. Yeah, so that's the score. So there's character creation, there's the score, and then there's our first look at skills, which everyone, of course, starts zoning in on their job, seeing the animation, seeing if they can figure out what it is. And we took note of a few things from last week, but was there anything that stood out to you, Saren, whether for a job that you play or just something that you were a little excited to see?
Everything just looked really flashy. Like, was it? I don't know if it's just me that thought that, but like everything just looked like bigger, and I don't necessarily know if that's good or not. Like, I could not tell what like pretty much anything was. I might just be stupid. I'm more than willing to admit I'm stupid. Like, from what I saw, everything just looked bigger, and this game loves its flashiness. I'm all for it, but then like we got through a little bit, and then I saw the chainsaw got bigger too, and I just put my head in my hands like.
Well, here's the thing. So it's not just that the chainsaw is bigger, because I think I know what that was. I think reassemble is Kasatsu now, where it changes the tool to a stronger version, because he does a normal chainsaw right before it. Literally does
She like
regular
that?
chainsaw and then goes off screen for 5 seconds, comes back and does the big chain. He reassembled off screen, I swear.
See, that could have just been like a combo or something, but I don't want a chainsaw combo. I really hope it's not a chainsaw combo. Like, part of me wanted to even think it was just an upgraded visual. Like, I don't know. I'm not willing to speculate too hard because, like, I don't want to be right about something I don't like. I'll live in ignorance for now.
Isn't that just playing Machinist most of the time?
I mean, sort of, but you know, Stockholm syndrome sets in eventually.
It's the part where you go back and be like, man, I want to go back to Stormblood Machinist.
See, this is the thing. I wasn't a huge fan of Machinist and Stormblood, but big but. I was new to the game. I was a paladin main. Didn't really know a whole lot. I was a bit stupid, naive, and then I switched to Machinist midway through Shadowbringers because I hated the way tanking was going. And the rest is history. But from what friends who played it told me, I should, like, in my, like, with nowadays, like, 6 years after starting, like, going back to Stormblood Machinist would probably be completely fine for me, and I do pretty well. But back then, no, it was too big brain for me.
It's too bad you missed Heavensward Machinist. Unironically, pretty good. I was Heavensward Machinist for Creator, I think.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Back
I
in
didn't.
the
I didn't.
gun
I
age
didn't
days,
ask
isn't
to
it?
be Machinist. There was another. We know you play Phys-ranged. Can you play Phys-ranged? I was like, I joined as a monk, and then they were like,
forced upon you.
and then they DM'd me and said, hey, so we recruited 2 monks, and I'm like, oh, you mean one other? And they're like, no, 2 more. Can you play Machinist? I didn't even just get forced out by 1 person playing monk. I got forced out by 2 in the same group. God, can't.
Speaking of, though, sorry to interrupt. I do like the moving cast in PvP. Currently, I would not mind it. I would not mind that. Just on the topic of gun mage.
Would you mind when you're actually trying to move from location A to B, though? Because then suddenly because then you'd have to be like Goss from Heavensward, which, you know, you put it on and it gives you a cast time.
Well, if they're gonna make casters more mobile, maybe give Phys-ranged more to think about. I don't know.
All right. That's a reasonable response. Yeah. Sly, I know we briefly got to touch on it because of the trailer that we got to watch last week, but have you stewed on anything, or have you just kind of let it go? You're in that same, like, don't want to really think too much about it scenario.
Yeah, everything looks shiny. I'm like, yeah, I'm at the point where, like, I don't want to know anything until, like, we get concrete. This is what it's going to be. And, like, again, this is why I hate speculating, because, like, now it matters a little bit more for me. So,
Mr. Durgan.
yeah, like, I will say this. It's pretty, but I did notice it was from a flank, so.
Holding on to the position. I don't know if that's a holding on to hope for positionals or just a general observation or any.
Yeah, it's just an observation. If it's from a flank, and so I'm like, more positionals.
So meanwhile,
Hey, you got True North, right? Yeah,
I mean, to be fair, that skill probably happens during Dragon Sight. And then that doesn't matter anyway. I'm just saying. Unless they take away your Dragon Sight positional thing and keep positionals. You don't seem thrilled at that prospect.
Honestly, I think positionals are going the way of the dinosaur, in my opinion.
A meteor is going to wipe them out? Wouldn't be the first time in 14.
Nice. But yeah, I think they're going away.
Yeah, I'm in that boat too. We shall see. I'm still just. Oh, sorry.
No, carry on.
I was just gonna say I'm just glad I got to see 2 new monk skills instead of 1, which means they might be PB enhancements or just general upgrades at higher level. Simple stuff.
I really hope they don't just go the pure upgrade route. I'm, because especially for Machinist, like that's more or less what they did, and it was extremely underwhelming. I really hope we not only do we get new toys. I mean, okay, think about what Yoshi said at PAX. Like that one line that changed how so many raiders perceived combat in Dawn Trail, more so than 3 FanFests put together. It got very hopeful all of a sudden. So if it is just upgrades, then we know it was just Yoshi P saying words again. So at least in terms of job design. So I'm really hoping it's not just that.
I mean, the problem is everyone, you mentioned it earlier, everyone either does or doesn't want to be right. And so it's like there's just a lot of apprehension about all of this stuff at the moment.
Yes.
I'm the one person who likes looking at a skill and just I like trying to work backwards. I don't want to figure out how it works into what we do now. I just want to figure out what it is. Like Gunbreaker clearly had a Fated Circle continuation. That was almost completely obvious, which doesn't add any buttons, mind you. And Gunbreaker definitely doesn't want any more buttons on top of what they have now. So that's fair. Paladin looked like AoE Requiescat. So very simple things. They did all look like, almost every skill looked like an animation upgrade of some kind. Including
I agree.
Chain Stratagemma. Yeah.
So people thought that was like AoE chain, right? But I just thought well, who cares? I just thought it was just an upgraded visual personally. Unless
I think
they
it's,
are leaning into multi-boss fights, in which case, all right, makes sense. Maybe that is a thing, but we just don't know. Again, massive speculation.
Are we going back to Heaven's Ward?
I like the theory that it's just an offensive follow-up to using Chain. How when as Dancer, when you use Devilment, you get Starfall.
Mm-hmm.
Just another like a nuke for them after they chain that they'll use during Chain. I was like, you know what? Okay. Maybe it reapplies Chain too. Who knows? Get 30 seconds of Chain.
That would be pushing the boat out for sure.
Yeah.
Remember, I said it first when it happened. Well, like I said, we won't have to wait too much longer because we do have the very busy schedule over the next 2 months. One of which is going to be that 2 weeks of media tour that they've already announced, and the combat live letter on the 16th. So don't have to speculate for too long. However, speculation is not the majority of this show. The majority of this show. No, it's not, because there's a difference between speculating about what they will do versus knowing what you hope they do. One is hopium, one is speculation. I still have my tag on this. Hold on. No one pointed it out all stream. I just saw it right now. So it's new Devil May Cry shirt. Listen.
Nice.
Capcom Uniqlo collaboration that I had no idea about, mind you. Thank you, Twitter, for letting me know. So we want to do a little bit of wish listing for some of the roles ahead of all the combat news. I figure we've got probably about, end of May is media tour. So we don't know when that kind of information is going to come out. We can probably assume sometime early to mid-June would be when that stuff would come out. So until then, everyone's got stuff that they want. And this week we want to focus on Phys-ranged, and hence why you're here. Now, I know
my best.
You'll do your best. Yeah, I'm sure your list is 90% Machinist, 9% Bard, 1% Dancer, or something like that. But
I mean, for Machinist, I have that thread I made the other day on Twitter. I don't know if you saw it. And then I kind of. The rest is more what I want to see changed rather than what I want to see added, I guess. I'm one of those people that, I know I just said not long ago that, just having upgrades would suck, but if they concentrate on like drawbacks of a job, I think that would also be really good.
All right, fair enough. Now, Sly, you don't play a whole lot of Phys-ranged, but there is one job you do play.
Machinist.
Yeah. The one Phys-ranged you do play. I've never really asked you how that experience is for you, because you're an East Coaster.
It's not the greatest.
Why don't you tell us a little bit more about how that goes, Sly?
Well, on average, my ping is, let's say, on a good day, 60-ish.
It's pretty good for East Coast.
Yeah, that's playable.
I had to use certain things.
VPNs. You can say VPN,
yeah.
Sly. It's not a forbidden
But,
word.
you know, but before that, fuck. Like, there was pre-VPN and then there is post-VPN, and there's a clear-cut difference. I had a lot more fun post. Pre was just, so yeah, I'm back on Dragoon again. And then
Honestly, a Dragoon with high ping is not that much greater of an experience.
no, but Machinist, there's a difference. There's a difference. Dragoon high ping, it's not great, but it's like you said, it's not unplayable. Whereas like a Machinist with high ping, it's like, well, fuck, I'm just gonna go play Shin Megami Tensei. Well, fuck.
Change games.
It's about the same pace.
It's not even change job. It's just change game. At that point. So, like, I didn't even want to like physically play anymore. But I'm trying to give this job a try. Like, I'm trying to do something outside of my scope, and I feel punished.
Scope, because the Machinist has I get it. Anyway.
Stop.
Thank you. God, you see how it is now.
I do.
Yeah, but yeah, it just felt like I was being punished for not living in the right area of the United States or the world.
I think it's very bad when someone wants to pick up a job and because they don't live close enough to the server, like it's just borderline unplayable. Like it's bad.
Yeah.
Like lag is lag. Like they can't be expected to save like bad internet, obviously. But
I mean, fuck,
it just like it's just 0 to 100 so fast.
Fuck, that's how the Shadowbringers media tour felt.
Mm. Oh yeah, it's
Because
funny you mentioned that. At the Shadowbringers media tour, I remember leaning over to somebody and saying verbatim, I think they saved this job. Because it was so much more fun than the Stormblood version. And I was just like, listen, it's got the Final Fantasy VI theme. It's got the rapid fire built in with hypercharge. But I'm playing it in literally the most ideal circumstance while I'm saying that. So of course I feel going home on the other hand, and then seeing everybody else, it was like, that's a little different.
Just hope he acknowledges.
And then we had the Endwalker media tour, which made me feel even worse because one, we were at home, so like me trying to do half of anything with what we were given kind of sucked because I'm on the East Coast and y'all are over there, and so I was already shot in the foot first of all, and then trying to play a job that, you know, yeah.
You know what's funny
about it.
What's so funny is thinking back to I remember Sarah and I having a meltdown about the question I asked Yoshi P about Machinists.
Bro.
I didn't even ask it just about Machinists.
The
Bro. I asked it about Blood Weapon too. It was about Blood Weapon and Machinists. Hypercharge specifically.
I don't understand like how it gets swept under the rug so much. I don't understand this sort of like blame players internet first sort of mentality. I mean, that happened with the Endwalker crews, the Endwalker queues and the 2K era, right? They blamed us and then they were like, oh wait, it's a bug with our code from 1.0. Oh, who could have seen that coming? But like with this, how do you deny it? Like my theory, my tinfoil hat theory is that they just don't know how to deal with it, and so they'd rather just not bother. But a lot of people notice. So, and Machinist is like the leading textbook definition of high ping affecting a job. So I don't get it.
Blood Weapon was right there with it, but that got fixed.
Well, they tried to address Machinist, right? They gave the hypercharge stacks, which is something we were asking for a while. So yes, thank you. But then they just did a half job and didn't extend like Wildfire's timer or anything, or get rid of it entirely. So even your burst with your highest potency ability was still scuffed, because it doesn't matter if you get all your heat blasts off. If Wildfire's run out already, then unlucky.
Unlucky. It also didn't address, the actual weaving during all of that, which is really the chief concern. It's funny because it makes me think of when Blood Weapon gave attack speed. long time ago when we had TP in the game and they decided to give Dark Knight an attack speed buff. It did not go over well.
I can imagine.
Machinist living that life in smaller spades still to this day. And it is really one of the most fascinating jobs to look at and kind of wish list, because I think it's fair to say that fundamentally most things aren't that wrong with it. I think we mostly agree that we want to do the thing it wants us to do, just not the way the game makes us do it.
Yeah, I mean, the loop is clean, the rotation's clean. You do it right, it feels rewarding. I think it's a very flowy job to play. I have a lot of fun with it, and I like that sort of feedback of when you play it right, everything lines up. And I mean, I guess we'll get to it, but guess what? One of my gripes of Dancer is. But I much prefer static jobs that, although might lack a bit of imagination, certainly feel good to play. And when you play them correctly, like you feel like you're useful.
Why is that funny, Sly?
Because I all the time say like playing Dancer feels like you're playing Simon.
Kind of
playing Simon Says. Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah,
that's fair. No, you know what it feels like to me? It feels like playing fucking flip a coin and guess whether it's heads or tails. And unfortunately, I fucking hate coins and they hate me back. Source, please watch my top clear. Just yelling for feathers the entire fucking time. It's great.
Yeah,
it's great.
It's insane. I don't like everything being 50-50. I like having agency over the job. Exactly.
Yes.
And Dancer is so dependent on everyone else and your RNG. And like, don't get me wrong, I like procs. They add an extra dynamic to the job. You get a proc, figure out when it's best to use it. But the entire job being based on that is just not okay. It leans too far in the other direction for me. And it just feels like you're being punished for doing absolutely nothing wrong. And then on top of that, if you're like in PF and you have a obviously suboptimal group, again, you're punished even further. Your use is decreased. And as much as it's cool to say, oh yeah, well, Machinist is good for that. You're just your own person. Like at the end of the day, it's kind of a team game. So if you're gonna have something like that, then I think there should be less disparity about when you're useful and when you're not.
That's fair. It's the worst feeling thing always on Dancer. Stone Sky Sea. There's nothing less exciting, I think. I think I'd rather do it on Warrior than do it on Dancer.
Yeah.
Oh man. And then there's Bard. Now Stall's not here, but I can feel her dying inside a little bit at the mere mention of it. Which has also had kind of a weird Endwalker journey, in a sense, where it didn't really change much from a point at which people really liked it, but the few things that did change divided people about whether or not they liked it. I don't know how much you've even looked at Bard this expansion. Either of
Meal
you.
Sly. I just find Bard to be a lot of work for quite little gain. Like there's obvious things like, everyone's been screaming to change song, while in combat, but when something's not targetable would be nice. I think Radiant Finale feels very mundane and a bit pointless, because if you're just playing the job, then okay, you'll get 6%, but then if you die, not only are you songless for a bit, but then you lose that buff too, so it's just overly punishing to die. I've given Bard chances throughout Stormblood, Shadowbringers, and Endwalker, and I prefer when dots were integrated into it. Sure, it made it extremely powerful, and clearly their philosophy is still that Phys-ranged kind of shouldn't be, but at the end of the day, it was a dynamic that made a lot more sense than just pressing a lot of buttons and dealing with priorities when, in fact, the gains are relatively minor and a lot of it is still on your group utilizing your buffs well.
All right. And Sly, I'm assuming you have nothing to add, because I know you do not touch Bard.
I like him in my parties.
Yeah, I'm noticing I'm noticing a trend with that, and Bard and Dancer. I'm noticing a continuing thing. That's the melee in you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not being selfish. Melee. Calm down. Leave me alone. Fuck you. I have a right to want a certain comp. Leave me the fuck alone.
That sounds like something a selfish melee would say.
Listen, I'm not Sam. I'm not Sam.
Listen, you're not a samurai. For a second, I thought you meant Sam, Limit Break Sam, and then I was like, oh no, you mean samurai. Very, very different situation there. I guess I'm the one kind of okay with Bard, but like want a few, because if there's a job that I would actually like to see changes on most, it's Bard, because it's the job I actually want to like the most out of all of the Phys-ranged. I did it in Asphodelos. I did it in DSR for both of them on release. And while I had my issues, I was like, well, that's fixable. And I otherwise don't mind doing all the work. It's just sad when I think about all the work I've done and some of the weirdness that comes with it. You mentioned the songs not, needing a target. So on DSR, you got to like Mage's Ballad right before a boss jumps just to make sure that the timing's not fucked for the entire thing. So it's like, well, that was a fucking great ballad. Love sitting at max bloodletter throughout the entire duration. So it's
speaking of bloodletter, I don't like that. I mean, every job has this to some extent, but I don't like that every single ability on Bard has like such a big animation delay as well. It feels very weird. Like you're actively pulling the string back or whatever it is every time you press an ability. Like I get it for immersion's sake, but for gameplay, it just feels really off. And it's pissed me off more as time has gone on. Like,
have you lost a 0.1% to that animation of the bowstring being drawn back?
No, I just don't like pressing a button, GCD rolling, and just ghosting it. Like some people call it optimization. I don't call it optimization. I just call it annoying. Personally.
Yeah, it's not like Machinist where it's like even during the
well,
hypercharge.
that's insane. But even those tools have the delay as well, and even that's still annoying. It's like you know about the pre-pull macro memes for air anchor in P12S, where you have to do that to get the air anchor just before she fucks off for the limit cut thingy. Like when you have to do things like that, it just feels really weird. Like I just don't think that should be a thing. I'm all for jobs being more complex, but that just feels really arbitrary to me.
Yeah, that's fair. Bard I can definitely vouch for Bard having its fair share of ghosting issues. I can think of a lot of DSR moments where I just go, nope,
No.
not doing it. Just not going to do it. So I feel that. Well, we introduced them in the order of most popular on this podcast to least popular on this podcast. So I guess we'll loop back around. We've kind of touched upon all of the job's issues thus far. But I do want to just quickly say, so you don't have any wishes for new skills, Ara, because that's a lot of people do like to try to predict, what's the level 100 skill going to be? That's like a big like speculation bit that people do. I'm on your side where I don't really care, but I want to hear more about the line of thinking.
I would like a personal MIT CD. I would like to not die to just simply being Phys-ranged. I would like, I don't know, like, I would love just Bishop to come back and give us AoE battery use again. It seems senseless to me that we don't have that. I would like level 100, maybe the sniper? Maybe? I just get the feeling. I get the feeling. I mean, sort of, yeah. I mean, you have it in PvP, right? With the limit break. But the problem with that is I also don't want stupidly high potency abilities in burst more. Like, I don't want more of that, and I feel like its only use would be that. So I'm not really sure how I feel about that. So I'm again, a lot of things I want are like quality of life, like wildfire timer extended and AoE drop off. I would like an AoE use of battery again. I would like flamethrower to be deleted from the game. I would like adjustments to the queen's timer so everything happens in the timer and not like wind up during it and then finish after it. I would like just things to make a bit more coherent sense.
See, when I think of the queen for the summoning animation, you know how when you're casting the limit break, there's the satellite light that's like coming down from above. I want the queen to just fucking come down, just fucking blast him in the face with a punch. That's it.
Sounds like some Avengers shit.
Yeah, I want it to look like Iron Man just fucking blasting from the sky into the ground and just doing like impact damage when it hits. You know how much better that skill would feel if it on impact just fucking crushed whatever it was that it was landing on? I'd be okay with that.
Absolutely.
And then you won't see that stupid little dash animation every time when you summoned it 2 steps out of range and you gotta watch it be like, I'm here.
I'll be made for good G posing mid limit break,
Yeah. Oh man. So yeah, it's funny that you mentioned that because people like to guess the level 100 skill. They rarely ever seem to try to guess anything that might get added either 90 to 100 or before that. And in your case, you're right. Those are almost always I'm going to use them once every 2 minute skills. What's an example of a job? I'm trying to think of an example where it's not that. I mean, I guess healers technically don't always have it for like that. Like we've had wings. But it's still like a once every few minutes skill, the capstone skill. Pretty much. No, Notman's not max level. That's like 76 or something. Yeah, I don't know. I
cannot think off the top of my head, honestly.
Yeah, so you're less interested in the capstone skill and more about everything that makes the job in between.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, like some of it's a little bit pointless because You know, like some of it's like dungeon stuff, and who cares, right? You know, like Wildfire, like AoE drop off and stuff. But if they do lean into like multi-boss fights or something again, or ads during like active phases rather than separated all the time, which is something I've long since kind of disliked, because I just think it kind of kills pacing of fights. You know, at that point, like I think it would have a use in raids, and it's more like just like, well, why not? Like, why don't these things exist? Like, they seem like really obvious things. Like, why would you take Bishop away and then just refuse to give it back? Like, it's so strange. Like, why would you just want a single target robot all the time? It's so odd. I mean, and like, they're not against like ads and stuff. I mean, like, look at DSR, for instance, you know, like with meteors. Like, it's just very confusing to me. I like what they've done with it. I just wish like it wouldn't feel like they've done sort of half a job and then left the rest until whenever.
Chat came up with a few. Wyrmwind Thrust is every 2 combos. Technically not, you know. One
Okay,
Monk six-sided star. That fucking skill. Great. Good reminder. Yeah, Radiant Finale, TBN is one. One of the 2 Raijus is 90 for Ninja. The second one, I guess. Flamethrower is a capstone skill.
Yeah, I mean, like, this is why I think it won't be removed, but I'd like them to rework it. Like, just give me a dot or something. Like, it feels so counterintuitive on a Phys-ranged to have an ability that makes you stand still. And I know this has been a thing since, like, at least Stormblood, but by now, it just feels very, very weird and very, very situational.
What if they let you put a flamethrower down and then walk away?
I mean, sure, give me a Shadow Flare of sorts. Yeah, I'm good with that.
There you go. See, we're already fixing it. We're already getting there.
There's very easy solutions to this. They just don't do it.
What if all of the tools just put down mini turrets that just shot the respective skills on
now
occasion?
You're going back to Heaven's Ward.
No, this isn't Heaven's Ward. I'm saying put down a drill turret, put down a flamethrower turret, put down an air. Just, fuck it, just like an army of turrets that just auto fire on shit.
I would not like more pet AI, honestly. Like, less of that would be good, not more of it.
These aren't pets. They don't count.
Sure.
It's more like they're more like a Shadow Buddy for Dark Knight.
Just a glorified dot, then, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. What if you put like 5 different turrets down and then they all like come together to form up a super.
That makes the robot.
Yeah.
Or like Perfect Alexander.
Yeah.
That sort of thing.
I think a super robot shit when it comes to this shit, man. Like, come on now.
I actually said that. I think I said that about the 90 capstone skill. I was like, oh, no. Because the queen is the 90. No, queen is 80 capstone, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, queen is 80. Well, I said for Endwalker, I was like, they should just make the 90 capstone. We just get in the robot and then just fight as the robot for like 15 seconds. 5 turrets in an alliance raid full of machinists. all effects on. Either that or half summoner, half machinist. Fuck it. That's it. Don't bother with any tanks. No healers, no tanks. Just only those 2 jobs. And that's it.
There was a lot of discussion in my chat today about if I would talk about summoner as the 4th Phys-ranged or not. And I said, you know, that like the joke's funny, but no.
It doesn't sound funny when you say it like that. I make that joke here plenty. So it's certainly a welcome piece of discussion. It doesn't matter. They're getting another caster anyway. So, you know, there's 4 Phys-ranged and 3 casters. It works out fine. Blue Mage doesn't count. It just doesn't.
True.
If Beastmaster has like a crossbow, that's our Phys-ranged, you know, our limited job Phys-ranged on Beastmaster. It's perfect. They're just gonna stick all the limited jobs in the like caster and Phys-ranged role because they're like, no one cares. Just stick them over there.
I just don't know what they're gonna do with Beastmaster. Like, what? Like, we have Blue Mage, which is its own bubble of content. Like, I don't know enough about Beastmaster to know what they're gonna do with it, honestly. So you two would probably know better than me.
Probably not much, to be honest.
He would.
I mean, I have the same speculation everyone. I just wanted Pokemon, man. I want to catch shinies. I don't even want to fucking fight with it. I just want to catch shinies. Like, that's like, I don't play Pokemon games for the RPG aspects. I just want to see the thing sparkle. And then everybody else will be like, "Oh my God, you have that?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And that's the end of it.
No, I'm good with that, honestly. Yeah. Instead of collecting abilities, you just collect stuff. Sentient objects.
Stuff.
I don't know how else to word it.
We want to go collect stuff so bad. Just go do mining. That'll collect you all the stuff. All right. So back on track with Machinist. You listed a few things that you want that are new, but obviously there are some things that you want to address that are already there. Now, you mentioned flamethrower, but I think the big one that people discuss is hypercharge. That's probably the number one category of discussion, whether it be that in conjunction with wildfire or separate as just its own thing and disregarding wildfire because the job essentially has disregarded it forever now. So we might as well also. So where are you at on the hypercharge? Where's your mind take you on that?
I like it. I like being fast. I like high APM. Ping issues aside, I think it's cool. However, I don't like. I mean, I don't. This is kind of contradictory, but I don't like how we can't play around with like skill speed because of it, and I don't like the auto crossbow doesn't refresh ricochet. Again, another just obviously neglected thing. I don't know. I don't know what I liked the stack change and I like the whole high APM thingy. And my issues are just ping and other stuff like not being able to like make skill speed viable really. Obviously in Abyssos you could run 2.47, gain extra GCDs here and there before downtimes. But that's as far as it goes. Like, otherwise, you're just kind of stuck. So there's a very little variance in that department. As for like what I would do to it, I honestly don't know. I've not thought that hard about hypercharge in particular because for the most part, I enjoy where it is when I can play it. But obviously, higher ping doesn't let you do that without overcapping charges. So I'm all for ideas in that department.
Well, you know what my idea is? I know you've commented on what my idea was. Probably, I was like 2 years ago at this point.
I've watched your ranged videos. Yeah, I do enjoy them. I don't remember what you said, though.
I said just make it so it's only 1 second. You just pop them off 5 times in a row. And then each of them just has the effect so you don't have to do the weaving.
Yeah.
So essentially just maintaining that there's some sort of rapid fire or even just make hypercharge just like a minigun and just fucking channel it for like 5 seconds or something. Something that makes you feel like you're shooting fast and doing a bunch of like small instances of damage.
Yeah, that's the thing with Machinist, it's like during your burst, it's so satisfying seeing like hypercharge, the ricocheting ghost charges, and your arm punches just hitting the boss at the same time. Like the amount of floating text, it's nothing massive, but together, like it's a lot, and that feels really good. It feels really it feels different to just massive potency ability. Oh, it didn't crit. I'm sad now. Speaking of crit, wildfire crit. Sorry, yeah,
I saw that. No, I knew it was. I was getting there. I was getting to the wildfire problem. Yeah.
How do I not mention this?
You do. That's the point. You have to mention it.
Yeah.
Everybody hates wildfire. Nobody likes it.
I mean, just on the principle of it not synergizing with every buff, like it's just silly. Like it just make it auto crit at this point because 1440 potency ability.
That's the one thing I've been wanting for it.
Like, yeah, I mean, it should because at this point it's too high of potency to have the possibility of critting because it's just too much variance. But in its current state, it doesn't synergize at all. So just make it auto crit. You know, I did like that change with the crit buffs, and I'm not really a massive fan of auto crit, but you know, it made sense in this scenario. And at this point, I think that's unless they change Wildfire completely, like back to Stormblood, where you know 25% of damage input would blow up on 25, the boss.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, something like that. Like that's cool too. Like make that crit. Sure, why not?
Then it's just every other crit that feels bad.
I mean, I guess, yeah. I guess that's the other side of it. Yeah, true. If you don't crit at all in that, then like unlucky. Maybe not the best solution.
Yeah. It's funny because another thing about Wildfire is a lesson they clearly learned in PvP. It explodes in an AoE.
Oh, yeah. I mean, again, just basic things that just like they make complete sense. Why isn't it in PvE? Like I played Machinist in PvP and I fucking hate PvP. I don't like PvP at all. And it's not just because I'm bad. I mean, I am really bad, but also I hate it. But it felt like all the creative energy for jobs like Machinist just went into that. Like the Bishop Shield thingy, you know, if it weren't for like the game being so DPS centric and raid, you know, I would even say like make that some utility. You know, it would probably never work out because you'd want battery for DPS pretty much all the time. But, you know, like ideas like that show that they think. Like the moving cast again, like that we mentioned earlier, I would like that too. It would add more dynamics to the job. Now, would it fit in the current iteration of Machinist? Very debatable, and you know, I don't think they're going to rework it anytime soon. So this is pretty much just wishful thinking, but it's clear they have good ideas. They just played so safe, but they went too safe and did a half job Harry on the job instead.
Half job Harry.
Yeah.
Is that like Billy No Mates? Is that like another?
No, I think it just sounded funny.
Okay. It's just alliteration. Okay.
Yeah.
I love learning British slang, and Billy No Mates is one of my absolute favorites.
At least we got dismantled. Yes, but how long did it take to get it back after it got taken away? It's like they suddenly realized, wait a minute, this job is pure DPS. It still does shit damage. How can we make it more useful again? It felt like such a disgruntled addition because they just gave it back eventually. It's like when scholars keep losing energy drain, then people moan that they have nothing to spend ether flow on, so they just reluctantly give that back again. Like, it's just like it's the same sort of concept.
They flip the switch down. Everyone's like, they're like, it's like somebody turning the lights off in an auditorium and everyone kind of freaking out for a brief moment, and then somebody turns it back on. It's exactly the same. Slice, all you wanted for what you said earlier, the one thing you wanted was the crit for Wildfire. Was there anything else?
Yeah, like no, that honestly, because whenever I Wildfired and it kind of felt underwhelming. I was like, man, this could use like what if it just crit like every time? And like once you said it, I was like, yeah, that's one thing I do remember. Other than that, and like ping changes, maybe a super robot.
Maybe. No, you're really hoping. That's not a maybe. You're really hoping for the super robot.
Yeah. It's never gonna happen though.
Hey, never say never.
Seriously, what if they did give them the
G Warrior, yeah.
Yeah.
Sly, remember when I said we're gonna be controlling a giant mech in that patch, and you totally denied me, like that's not happening. And then the fucking trailer came out and it was fucking happening. This is your moment. All right. Now it's your turn.
Look, the last G Warrior patch we had fucking sucked, to be honest.
True.
The one where we just press the button 6 times?
No. True. The one where we just that was the one. Yeah, that was the one.
The side quest during Tataru, I think it was.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that one sucked.
Yeah. That one fucking sucked.
Sorry, Tataru. I like your quest, but still.
Yeah, other than that, like I can't really think of anything else for Machinist. I mean, honestly, right now it's for me, just having fun, just doing something that I don't normally do. It's fun.
It sounds so hesitant. Fun. That's like being in a group of friends and like just being like, yeah, they got that one person that like you don't really mind them, but you're not really thrilled they're there. Like, yeah, sometimes they can be, fun, but
damn. I wasn't thinking of it in that regard, but fuck. I mean, it is fun, but it could use some work. Not perfect.
Just taking something from chat, like someone mentioned Bioblaster. Thank you for reminding me. Like this is evidence of the half job, man. It just is. Like, how do you how do you buff drill like 3 separate times, and then just forget that this completely removes like Bioblaster's use on like 2 targets? Because you're gonna risk the drill crit 100% of the time. When you reassemble drill, like you're not like that's automatically better than Bioblaster. Okay, so it's like they just relegated it completely to a dungeon ability only again.
Which is weird because the other range really don't have. It's really a Machinist issue. The whole dungeon abilities versus, part of the game that matters abilities, aka single target versus AoE most of the time. Like, I'd say the only place that really feels bad in serious content for Machinist is DSR, and at least you have Chainsaw, I suppose, to hit 3 targets with. So there's that. Grats, I guess. Meanwhile, the Astro is out DPSing you with fucking Macrocosmos in the middle of the room. Macro, double Lord, call it a day, and you're just like, I guess I'm glad I showed up at the very least.
Should never give the motherfuckers Macrocosmos.
Macrocosmos really has been a thing the whole expansion, hasn't it?
Yeah. They should have never given the motherfuckers Macrocosmos.
Remember Asphodelos Phoenix, Macrocosmos appreciators here?
Yep. It's like they finally designed a heal check again and then just completely removed it with Macrocosmos. It's just the weirdest decision. Like, I do not understand.
Sometimes you just got to completely negate a whole mechanic, and that's all there is to it.
Apparently so.
Well, we all agree that Machinist's probably the one in need of the most love, even if it's still kind of okay. As Sly put it, it's fun.
Mm-hmm. It's fun.
No, it'll always be fun.
From time to time, I like it.
All right, don't push it. Don't say always be fun. That's a statement that can be challenged. They can prove you wrong.
We'll find out in Dawn Trail whether it's gonna be fun. We'll find out.
So let's go to the next one, the job that I was forced on for the other half of the expansion, Dancer, and has been my, I guess, coup de grace since it came out in Shadowbringers. RNG. Come on, Slide. That was a good pun.
No, I'm just thinking about Dancer in general, not your pun.
Okay. Yeah. It's been a time, Dancer, since it came out. Probably the swingiest job in the game, while also being on the lowest end of the spectrum.
That's an adjective.
Yeah. Well, also a pun, by the way. The swingiest.
I hate it here.
Welcome to my world.
A job that simultaneously is made of several mostly infrequent small damage instances and very few large crit reliant high potency damage instances, while subsequently gaining most of its potential from your teammates that are also dealing with their own high amounts of damage swing with crit and everything. It's how are we handling this? Because do you really want to take it all away?
I'm hoping you can answer that.
Yeah, we were
I have
relying
nothing
on
good
you
to
for
say.
this fucking segment altogether. Yeah, exactly.
I have nothing good to say. So.
Sometimes an outside perspective is valuable.
Well,
thanks
as
for
we
that,
discussed,
partner.
remove dance partner, get rid of it. I don't like it. You know, it's a cool idea, but it just like, I mean, in early prog it leads to gear funneling abuse. Overall, it's just like you're forced to make a decision before you've even started the fight, not knowing if it's the right one.
Well,
like it's go on.
I'm
Sorry.
I'm gonna stop you right there. I'm gonna okay. Difference between dance partner and cardio.
Cardium doesn't deal damage. Cardium doesn't.
Yeah.
The Cardium is the equivalent to a fairy, which nobody really gives a shit about, right? That's what it is. It's the alternative.
I mean, but you still have to choose someone.
And the answer is always the main tank. Whereas,
well, most of the time, you know, you can get jiggy with it. You know, like
I
you
actually
can go to
do.
UCOB and Phys-ranged is baiting. You know, you can give it to them briefly. Sure.
I've had to. I've also changed. I remember I was PFing a fight. I don't remember which fight it was, but there was a point where a DPS would get targeted for something, and I'm like, I'm not healing them. I just cardium them, and I go back to DPSing, and then when it's done again, I go back to doing it on the main. I do the same. I do that exact same. But all the same, the idea is simple. It's your dance partner is like everything rides on it. Cardium, nothing rides on Cardia. All right. It's like a 4,000 point heal like every 2.5 seconds. You know? So that's the difference, Sly.
But my thing is like with that, because you don't really think of people, you don't really think of dancers swapping dance partner in the middle of a fucking fight. Because
They
like,
do sometimes.
I mean,
I had to do it a lot in DSR and top because everyone's burst window during different phases can be different. Like anyone who's got really good AoE during meteors in DSR, I have to make sure they get it. Anyone who's stronger during phase 4 of top in that like 48-second burst window, like Red Mage having triple melee combo there when everyone just burned their 2s right before that. I'm like, fuck it. Red Mage, take the dance partner.
That's a good point in chat. If you're going to swap dance partner, you want it as close to standard step as possible as well.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's just sitting there for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Which is also annoying.
Yeah. So there can be interesting. The worst though is every dancer looking at their party list, like, oh yeah, that black mage is geared to the teeth. I'm giving it to them. First person who dies in the fight every fucking time.
It just feels inconvenient. Like I don't like it. I don't like dance partner. I don't like just sort of where it puts dancer. Overall, and on top of that, like Esprit RNG is annoying as hell. Like they've made it so you can kind of predict your sabers a bit better by getting Esprit from like ability presses now, but just suddenly being punished by being like 1 GCD late because you didn't predict it, or even maybe you didn't even have enough gauge. Like maybe you had 40, and then like within what feels like a second, you have like 90. It's just really annoying to deal with. Like dancing to me feels like a discipline, and like dancer feels like the least disciplined job ever. Like it's just so strange.
That was so profound.
Wow.
It's true.
I'm not disagreeing. See, I'm kind of okay with the very reactionary play. I just want there to be fail safe. See, I'm in that category. I just want fail safes to things. Like, what's a good example? Okay, another job that has the exact same issue you just mentioned with Esprit, Monk. Both the jobs I play, getting 5 stacks, and you always okay. You want to talk about animation shit annoying you? For any non-Monk mains, you may not know this, but every GCD you do during Brotherhood gives you 1 stack, even if it doesn't crit, because every GCD, like, that's just how it works. You just get 1. So, but you get it like 60% through your GCD rolling because of your speed, because it has to do the animation of you hitting the opponent and then the animation of the fucking orb coming back to you and like touching your body, the little sound effect that comes. So when you're at 4, you already know that over halfway into your GCD, you're going to have to press Forbidden Chakra. So that's like, it's a similar feeling, like capping you at that. Now they try to remedy it by letting you go to 100, but it's one of those things where it's like, just give me 120. Like that's enough. Like if you just gave me a little bit more on top, or like let it overflow a little bit, like without over capping, that would solve it. Because it's not about making the wrong decision. It's about making the only decision that made sense a second ago, and now you're wrong after the fact, but you couldn't have known because it was RNG.
Here's just an idea, like in these cases of things overcapping, would it be cool to return to this idea of like Gauge deciding how strong something is? So like if you could go to like 120, would you want to wait for that for a stronger attack? And then it's kind of gauge how strong you want to be based on the gauge that you have?
I'd sooner
Like,
just
some
make
proper,
it so
like,
that
I
100.
don't like the idea of waiting on Gauge.
Yeah, Dragoon's not much of a gauge waiter, so I feel that.
Yeah, like as a DB, it's like if that were put on me and they're like, "Hey, like wait until your gauge is so and so, and then you just go ham."
Yeah, no, it's just an idea, just to sort of remedy. Like if you do overcap, you still get a stronger ability up to a certain point. Just to cover it, maybe. I don't know. It's just kind of just the same as expanding the gauge, really. So actually, this probably doesn't make a lot of sense. And someone brought up Apex Arrow, which is horrific. So yeah, actually, good point. We'll get there.
We'll get there. That's what I was Yeah. But it's just, for me, it's just layer on layer of RNG. Like I said, my top prog was me yelling at my feathers 90% of the time. And that's some of that's a top problem. Sometimes I don't care. I'm just like, whatever, I didn't get a lot. But in top, the like check was so swingy on content because of crit variance and just any sort of small mistake, that anytime I wasn't getting feathers, I'm like, you fucking piece of shit job, not starting over on something else. Just fucking put the feathers in my goddamn hand. All right. You ever lose phase 1 to feathers? Why was the boss so much higher that time? I don't know, man. I don't know.
I mean, I'm a firm believer that there's always improvement from everyone, and that like no singular thing should cause an enrage. But knowing how much potency you potentially lose, it's hard to not be like mad about it. Like I completely feel you.
I remember a discussion we had in Shiva in Shadowbringers about the GPS check being tight, and we're just like, are we sure we want Dancer for this? That was it. Like we had a discussion as a group, like, are we sure Dancer's the way to go here? Because we were just worried. What if it's no crits? What if there's no feathers? What if it's bad Esprit gain? What if it's bad this? What if it's bad that?
I mean, again, I think, if everyone plays well enough, then it won't matter. But it's like,
you're
if
also
you want
looking
that
for every
cushion,
edge,
like, if you want that cushion, then the question starts being asked. Like, do you want to risk it? Do you want to risk suboptimal play and then like the feathers making it worse? Or do you want to just go and play Machinist and do the same thing every pull? And then like let everyone else figure it out.
Just tell me where to put my mitt.
Yeah.
I have a question for you, Saren. Do you run into the issue where your group just trusts you to do mitt and never coordinates it until the very final phase? In Ultimate specifically.
Like in Ultimate? No, I don't think so. Well, I've had experiences where, like riding on a single mitt like might kill you if you don't press it. So like in essence, yes.
But do they let you
But,
figure it out, or do they try to tell you where they want it? Because I've always been left to figure it out until the very final phase where we have to completely make sure that it's perfect.
I press things where I think, like, you know,
Yeah,
for example,
okay.
like if there's multi hits, like I want to use tactician, right?
Yeah.
You know, like for example, like to start with, like raid wides, maybe dismantle or like a stack, like dismantle. Later on, like you might want to change that. So, like later on, you might want to change that. So, like for example, like it could be like your tanks are lacking mitt for a certain bus, so like use it there. Why not? It's hard to say because this dismantle has only been relevant for top. And like DSR, when we got it back, like you go back into DSR and suddenly you just have like a million options of where to put things. But you know, on content, DSR only ever had tacticians, so
Where do you even?
you know,
like,
I
you
just
can
tend to put it where I think is right.
Like I
Yeah,
don't even. I'm trying to
exactly.
think because like what the Thornton does, like a tank buster and then leaves, and you can't use it for the entire downtime. So Nidstinian has probably the most useful phase I could think of off the top of my head. I don't know, maybe Roth during the Ockmorns, or if you need it for one of the wings for the double buster. That's it.
Yeah, dismantle, like you know, you can tactician like several parts of strength, and then you can like dismantle. Like if you don't want to use it in P3, then put it on like ultimate end or something, just as a cover for if someone else forgets something.
Oh yeah, Worm's Breath. That's true. You know what? I hadn't thought. People do static position Worm's Breath a lot now, don't they? It's probably really good there.
Not on EU, but
Oh, on NA they
on NA,
definitely
yeah.
do static position Worm Breath. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's just toxic.
Yeah, probably useful there.
There you go. And phase 7, no one ever questions it.
Phase 7, it's just if you forgot it, people are gonna know about it, and you're gonna be flamed for it.
You sure will be.
Yep.
Very obvious when it's not there.
Yeah.
Oh man. Yeah, for Dancer, I think I want a way to I want 4 full feathers to be split in half and guarantee half a feather 100% of the time and a full feather 50% of the time. That would be enough of an RNG mitigation for me. It's very much like their Esprit change, where you get 5 or 10 based on the type of G. Why are you looking at me like that, Sly?
No, because I actually have a question, like
Okay.
outside of this for you.
All right.
But go on.
All right. Yeah. There's that Esprit. I could just do away with Saber Dance. That's it. I don't need it. I don't feel like it makes the job any more fun or any better. I could, like, obviously I want something in its place, but just, I feel like just having the feathers for the gauge is enough. I don't need I don't feel like I want a second gauge at all. Especially if they were to get rid of Dance Partner and you had to do it all on your own, Esprit alone on your own. No, no fucking thank you. I'd sooner just like, I guess if they just made it so every time you use standard step, you get 25 Esprit and that's it. Then it's kind of stupid. You might as well just give stacks or something.
I do think something needs to be done at standard step because it feels weird now just leaving it off cooldown for like your entire burst because per potency to other abilities are very likely better.
The big thing is the end of your burst is the weirdest part. Like you have 5 seconds left in your burst. You're like, well, I guess I just won't standard for 5 seconds because I'm not going to fucking do that.
Yeah, it's it's in a weird place. I think like it should just be like once a minute or something. I mean that's really boring, and then you have Tilana that refreshes it anyway. So I don't really know what to do with it. But standard's just in a weird place now.
Yeah,
Sly, ask your question.
You kind of answered it. Never mind.
Oh.
Because that was one of the things I was like really worried about was like, what were y'all gonna do with like standard step? Like, because it just feels,
okay. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, if Dance Partner were to go the way, which by the way, I sincerely doubt Dance Partner's going anywhere. No, I think that's like, I think they would sooner straight up get rid of Devilment than get rid of Dance Partner itself.
Yeah, maybe.
Because I feel like jobs end up going the way of rework like every few years. If Dancer were to get like a complete fucking rework, how would you see it going? Do you see the RNG going away? Do you see the steps? Do you see steps getting, you know, I mean, if we took away the RNG, then like obviously standard step wouldn't need. Well, maybe it still would need a little bit of fine tuning, but what would you see? What would you see in a complete Dancer rework? And while you say that, I'll listen and go get more ice.
All right, that's fine. I think you can go one of two ways. I think I almost like the idea of the really long channeled skills to some capacity with a big output at the end. But like if they had to do a lot more dancing and less of just throwing fans the entire time, like I'd be okay going in that direction. But I think more so I'd like to see it go the other way where it's already kind of like hypermobile. But at the same time, I'd like it to look more like its motions or like it's like every skill set. So the big thing that happened with Bard was that it used to be just kind of like they had a few songs to sing and they just used the bow. That's how it was when it first came out. Like, yeah, you could sing Foes to drain all your MP, or you could sing Ballad, but like that was the only gimmick that really made you a Bard per se. Then they did Minuet, which just put you into turret mode, which didn't really change the feel at all. You still just, now you felt even more just like, you know, I have songs, but I'm just bow. Then they hit the stride in Stormblood where the songs started to take kind of the front seat. And I feel like they inherited that kind of mentality with Dancer, where it does feel like the dancer aspects are kind of the spots that you look at the most. But I wonder if there's a way to just make it more, I guess, to make the dancing aspect more. I always think of job fantasy more, which is why I really liked Machinist when it came out in Shadowbringers. It was all about the tool. It was like the character that inspired the class originally, which is Edgar from Final Fantasy VI. Obviously, there's also, you know, Mustadio, which we know that that Yoshi P loves his tactics. So much so that he says it's about time they make another one. Hopefully that's a hint. Love that statement. But I feel like for me, it's just about the job fantasy. Once the job fantasy is there, and I think it is largely there with Dancer, I think you just need to tune what is there and how it all goes in between. So I don't know. I feel like everything made after Shadowbringers or Shadowbringers and on, even with like flaws in the designs, like some of the things with Reaper, like the Mark, for example, I feel like they've largely like got the core idea down, which kind of makes it harder to do things with it. So that's where I'm at with Dancer. It feels like it's one of the harder jobs to look at and go, let me fundamentally change something about it. It's like, do I really want to? No, not really. Just tune everything. Everything needs to be kind of fine-tuned. I really drew that out to make sure you sat back down before I finished, just so you know.
Yeah, I heard everything. I heard everything.
I know you did, but I was like buying time until you got back. And I don't think Serenaya even cares.
I just don't know. Like it's, you know, because when I think of Dancer, I think about like the wider game balance, and I think about like the Phys-ranged role itself. Like we have the static selfish DPS. Well, selfish, you know, we have more utility now. Whatever, it's not really the point. And then we have the full RNG with Dancer, and then we have like the in between. It's like the Bard always has like the fail safe. You press 1. And then you press the procs when it lights up. You know, it feels like there's more of a mid ground. You know, you have cooldowns that you press on CD. Not everything is gauge based. So there is some rigidity, and I think like I just prefer that. You know, if I'm gonna give Bard credit for something, it's for having that mid ground. And again, this is personal bias because I prefer more static jobs, but I just think Dancer is just too far in the whack-a-mole direction. I feel like it's just too much in that you don't have any control over like what you're doing. You know, as profound as it was, like dancing, it doesn't feel like you're a dancer really. You're just like hurling your chakrams in random fashions. So like the
You're
job
playing
fantasy is not
DDR.
really there for me anyway. So
You're
I
playing
don't know, you know,
DDR.
yeah, kind of, pretty much any
And have
sort
fun
of
with that.
rhythm-based game. But as for how I would fix it, I wish I had ideas. It feels like quite an experimental job that they just didn't bother to fine tune. Like dance partner is, you know, like a really heavy boost to one person. Like all the buffs are really heavy, but if your team sucks, then suddenly you don't want to play the job anymore. Like it's so like one way or the other. And the same goes for its damage. You get all the procs or you get none. You get all the esprit or you get none. And you know, I don't know. Like I'm just waffling at this point. I legit do not know sort of how to fix sort of not only Dancer itself, but balance Phys-ranged properly. So like they all kind of are as viable as each other.
See, I don't feel like any's more or less viable. It's just down to preference. Like I said, I'm okay with.
No, I mean
Dancer,
sure, yeah. It is preference, but you know, like Dancer is heavily favored, especially for like, you know, pushing extra damage. Although like the more casual you get, the more useful like Machinist becomes kind of.
If you're good at it, at least.
Yeah. Oh no, for sure. Like, you know, it's so maybe not like more or less viable, but just how do I even word this? You know, I want them to all be useful in their own way, and also not like just lean too much into like one particular style. Like Dancer in its RNG. Like it feels very unrewarding to play. It feels very just like everything is like not really your fault. You're relying too heavily on others. Again, the fantasy's not really there. I just think that it needs some way to assure procs outside of Flourish maybe, or just have like only half of the buttons be procs. I think like the single target and AoE path that they kind of introduced in Endwalker was fine, because then you weren't like pressing quite so many buttons. And I also didn't like just being forced into melee range all the time, and that was in Shadowbringers when the hitboxes weren't massive, by the way. Before anyone calls that out.
See, I
But-
miss that because I always liked being like, okay, how do I get this one melee range GCD? How do I get it?
I mean, fair. Yeah, I don't know. Like, I'm like straight waffling at this point. I don't know. I just, you know, I will play it if I need to. Like, it's not that bad. You know, play it in a capable scenario, and like you reap the rewards. But I just like having a job that feels like it fits me. And I just think the Dancer is a problem in terms of the game.
Fortunately, one of the three seems to fit you.
Yeah, thankfully.
It'd be really awful if none of them did. Looking
Yeah,
at
you know,
Dawn
it's
Trail.
it's like, you know, I will play all of them. It's just I find so many more like fundamental issues with like Dancer and Bard. Like Machinist, like I just nitpick at it and point out things because I love it. You know, like if you care about something, you criticize it, right? Same with like the game in general. But Bard and Dancer, like it's a whole lot less love and more just like, why aren't you like this?
Why aren't you like? Well, speaking of why aren't you like this, that we finally come full circle back to Bard. Once again, I feel like I'm the only one who cares.
I really feel like we needed Stall for this. I wanted some Stall reactions for this.
Stall's too
Just
depressed about it to even like give like feedback. She's like, please, I don't know. She's like, so like he just was with Dancer essentially. It's like songs suck, job sucks, it sucks. I'm gonna play it. That's generally what it is. Because so I realized I'm definitely more in line with Bard very recently, actually, than I am with Machinist, even, for example, because I had the choice of going Machinist or Bard for synced for low item level turn 8 Savage.
Nice.
Nothing quite like having an average item level of 47 and having level 90 skills. What a satisfying endeavor that is, to look like a sprout in turn 8 Savage. But I did it as Machinist, and then I did it as Bard, and I was like, Bard's more my speed. So let me think about Bard a little bit more for Dawn Trail. This was just like Monday also. And the more I think about it, the less I really think a lot needs to change with that job. I think it's just a matter of whether you like the not dot direction or not. And I'm like indifferent at this exact moment. There's only a few like small quality of life things that I want for that job.
I want dots to stay, like for sure.
Funny
Everyone
guy.
dooms about dots going away. Like I don't want that to happen. I like dots. I like the Bard has them. Some people really hate them. They just say they feel annoying. It's like something you have to keep an eye on like once every 30, 45 seconds. And it's like, well, yeah, but like that's kind of like how it is.
So is
as a
every
dot.
other button.
Like,
Point of
it's a form of damage.
Yeah, I'm indifferent. I'm of the opinion if they stay, you need to double down on them, which has its ups and downs in fight design. If they don't stay, you better give me something fun enough in return. I think it's going down to one. I think they bring back Faux Requiem, right? And they get rid of Wind Bite or what is it? It's Caustic Bite and Storm Bite. They get rid of both of those. They just bring back Requiem, and Requiem is the dot. I'm calling it right now. That's what's going to happen. One dot, and it's Faux Requiem. And it's just going to have the old icon and everything. And they just get it at level 15.
Just one?
Yeah, I'm calling it. I'm not saying that's what I want. I'm calling it. I'm just predicting the outcome. I just saw somebody say holding sucks for Bard. Maybe something like a Notman to refresh. As a monk player, don't you ever recommend a Notman to me ever again. Don't you ever recommend anything to me like a Notman ever again. It's not allowed. You can't do that. That's just, it's get out. I don't, no. All right. I won't accept this. When the Melee show, I'll have something to say about a Notman. But yeah, it's just like the rigidity of the songs is the only real structural problem that I find with the job anymore.
I don't like Apex and Blast really. Like the songs are the main problem. If they fix that, I'd like it more already. If they keep dots, please just keep dots. This is kind of a hot take, or at least I found out that it was earlier today. What about like giving like Imperial Arrow a second charge? So it's not
that's like
quite
the coldest
as annoying
take imaginable. What? How
to like?
Is it
Look,
just
some
because
people
then you
are
would
like
only
some
use it
people
half as
seem to
frequently?
really
Yeah.
like clipping their GCD. Okay, like I don't know. Some people seem to really enjoy that for some reason. Like I think like making that less important by giving it another charge would be nice. However, back to Apex and Blaster, so I got completely sidetracked. I don't like how it seems beneficial to just hold it at 100 into burst. Like that seems weird. I like this idea of damage increasing as you increment upwards, but I don't like this idea of like having two GCDs held hostage and then potentially just overcapping constantly. Like that sounds like that's weird to me.
Yeah, that's fair. I don't think many people like the way they're incorporated necessarily. Like in an optimal world, you're between 80 and 100 gauge right at 1 and 2 minutes. Sometimes you just have a little more. And that's all there's to it. But when that becomes the case, what's the point in it being a gauge?
Yeah, exactly.
So, it's not like Esprit where, okay, I'm going into my burst window. I only have 30 gauge, making like the decision making kind of evolves like spontaneously during that entire predicament. Here it's just like, well, if you just made it a 1 minute cooldown, and then at once every 2 minutes, it could be like, no, fuck it, if you just made it a 1 minute cooldown, it'd be the fucking same thing, which is not a great thing to be able to say about any skill.
No, but at least in its current state as a gauge, it does increment upwards in damage. So I guess that's where the decision making comes in. But when it always has an optimal use scenario, like that's kind of rendered pointless in a way, which circles back to your point.
Yeah, it's. I think that's fair. There's a lot of ways you could go with it. I'm of the indifferent, because as long as it gets used in the 1 minute, whether it's like, yeah, do you want to overcap sitting there? Overcap, no, but like sometimes I don't get 100 gauge even by the time I get to the fucking 1 minute or 2 minutes. So I'm glad that I have the option to still throw it out during the burst window, because you're not going to hold it past the burst window. You'll still pop it between 80 and 100 during. So it has that like mild flexibility.
Yeah.
And
the issue might be the meta itself.
Yeah, I was just going to read the same thing. Yeah. It really just comes down to, if it was a Realm Reborn, nobody would have given a shit. They would have looked at like Raging Arrow and been like, and Hawk's Eye and been like, is that coming up soon? Yep. Okay. Although I feel like the gauge would have needed to have filled up twice as fast back then. Did
you like the abilities Ranged had, where at 20% HP you had an extra one to use?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of a few classes having a finisher skill: Mercy Stroke, Misery's End, the Batch. I'm a fan of some jobs scaling up when a boss gets lower on health.
Yeah, I think that's nice. I think that would. I remember playing with that in Stormblood a bit. I enjoyed it because it reminded you that you were close to the end, and then you felt like you were really trying to kill it, even though it was just one button.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you think all jobs should have that?
No. Then they're lame.
No. I think ranged having it is ideal, just because not only are we the joke of the community, but also I think it makes sense for stuff that typically does less damage to suddenly ramp it up a little bit. I don't know. I think from like a fantasy standpoint, that sounds pretty cool.
Even Eagle Eye Shot in Eureka.
You see less damage, but there was a time. There was a time.
And we had Misery's
I know.
End back then
No. I'm aware. Yeah. No, I am aware. Just, I mean, like, especially now. Sorry, I should have clarified. No, you're completely right. Like, back then they were monsters.
Pretty fucking strong.
Yeah.
Phys-ranged has a kill button, so they feel like they have damage while still sucking. Damn.
Thanks for that.
That's brutal. Yeah, because in Eureka, it's kind of weird, because Eagle Eye Shot has this like entire like mathematical breakdown in Eureka, because it scales up per 10% of missing health. So like when the boss is missing 80% health, you start cutting out one type of skill, and then when it's under like 60, you cut out a different skill, and finally when it's under 20, it becomes the only GCD you use.
It's kind of cool in a way, but I wouldn't expect that in a raid scenario.
Yeah. But I know I do miss the Misery's End. I think the like giving a bonus for landing the kill shot thing was always kind of scuffed as fuck, because the animation delay makes it nigh impossible to be the one respond. Like when you got a Mercy Stroke heal on Warrior, like I fucking did that shit. You were so proud of the like 3,000 point heal you got from Mercy Stroking a Titan jail and being the killing blow of all things. But yeah, I would be okay with Phys-ranged having that. I feel like though when I think of it, I feel like Dancer would be the one job I wouldn't give that to. Like it would be Bard and Machinist. I'd just leave Dancer out of the whole thing.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Doesn't really help Dancer's problem at all, unfortunately.
No, not really. I don't know, like, dance is the kind of job I want to like. It just, I don't like staring at my hotbars too much.
That's fair. As a Dancer main, I can tell you that I just look at the other monitor the whole time.
Wow. Do you have that sort of like weird muscle memory where like you press certain buttons at certain times? Like just in case they're up. Like I do that with my Ghost and Ricochet a lot. Like people have even pointed out, like they've noticed that I do it. Like after every GCD, like I'm pressing like one of them in case it's off cooldown. It's that bad.
So what's funny is on Dancer, there's like, it looks like so much copium when I do that, because I'll press the GCD that can give me the fourfold, and I'll be pressing the fourfold during the burst window and it doesn't come up. And not only that, but even if the fourfold doesn't come up and I don't press it, I then start pressing Fan Dance 3 in case I get the second proc. So when I get none of them, it just looks like maximum, like just like such a cope that like there was any chance at all. If you watch the very last like 15 seconds of my top clear, you see it happen a few times. And then you just hear me yell, Fan Dance!
That's so sad. That's actually so sad to think about. Like I just imagine like your face just like going from like a like really hyped up and like, you know, like determined to kill, and then just like as the enrage ticks, like your just expression like, just like dips and dives.
There's nothing like pressing two different blank buttons as if both of them were going to happen and neither of them happening. I do that with Bloodletter on Bard too. During Ballad, I'll definitely, like, if I know there's no other OGCD, I will Bloodletter up until like the halfway point just in case it like pops midway. I also stare at the timer every 3 seconds and just like count. I'm just like, okay, here, no, okay. All right, 1, 2, no, okay, didn't get it. There's just like a part of me that likes being desperate for anything to happen.
I think Phys-ranged has done that to you, man. Phys-ranged does a lot of things to people. That's one of them.
It's funny because then the only melee I play has the same fucking problem. Sitting there waiting for fucking chakra stacks, and then the only time I do get them, there's too fucking many of them.
So what did you do? What did you do Uwu
on? Monk.
Okay. I was gonna say maybe you did it on Dancer,
because you know how I remember it's Monk, because during the ball popping section near the end, I tried to step into range between the orbs to get a GCD to keep Grease Lightning, and I didn't step close enough, and I lost Grease Lightning. So that's how I remember is from that single, because I remember saying like, fucking lost Grease Lightning. If we wipe, it's on me. And then we had like the first ever 0 kill, like 0 death at the end kill speed. So I was like, fuck it. Guess I didn't need it. Yeah, Dancer wasn't a thing during Uwu either. That's Stormblood. So I only would have been on Bard. Yeah, a better time. Yeah, dude, you ever try going back to UCOB on Dancer and they make you bait fireballs and you're out of range of standard step?
There is a solution. If you just standard step later in the countdown, it tends to line up a lot better.
Yep, but I'm still annoyed that it's even a thing in any capacity at all.
True. That kind of brings me on to a point I wanted to mention. I don't know if this was in the plan, but in general, with fight design and the hitboxes and how all the mechanics are so melee friendly, like it really feels like, and you know, like standard step can be an example of this. Like it feels like purpose no longer exists currently. So like this is less about jobs and more about fights. Like if you know, obviously our previous task was to make up for lack of melee uptime. And then once they'd optimized, like you would just completely delete a boss extremely quickly. But now we're just a 1% buff. There's, you know, we don't really have anything special. Like Phys-ranged tax is like still a thing. Meanwhile, melees were never balanced around this idea of free uptime. And so, like, my biggest wish, like, you know, we can say what we want about individual jobs, but my biggest wish is just to, like, have fight design revert to a point where we have a use and can do mechanics like Panto, like Nidhogg X is ad spitting, you know, like UCOB Baits, like just to have a purpose again, and to make everyone else also fight for their uptime again. Like that's my biggest wish for Dawn Trail. And Yoshi has mentioned something that I am hard coping alludes to doing that.
Which I think might be the only thing that realistically changes.
Yeah,
I don't think anything
maybe.
else is actually. I think that broad statement is like something that they're thinking of over the next 10 years, but the only actual execution of it is going to be hitboxes not being the size of the entire arena.
Well, it lets tanks move bosses again. You know that's like a forgotten skill to have.
Bro, Endwalker tanks are gonna. People who started tanking or playing an Endwalker are gonna be in fucking shambles. You ever seen like a fucking newbie Endwalker tank step into Uwu and try to get Garuda directly in the center of the room? One of the worst experiences trying to get Twintania right on the fucking Neuralink positions.
Yeah.
Oh no. What a fucking struggle that is. Oh.
I think plenty of people will rise to the challenge though. I mean, I'm hopeful. You know, I want people to get into raid. I want people to like get better at it. You know, there is an argument to be made that it's just going to put people off because things get too hard for them. But like, honestly, fuck them at this point. I don't care. Like, so many people are so bored. It's like, just make them feel like tanks again, not just damage sponges.
What's always wild to me is that the people against these changes, a lot of the times, not saying everyone against changes that like what's been suggested, are the people who literally don't play the game. They're like in Limsa, like checking their phone, being like, man, they shouldn't do that. I'm just going to hang out in Limsa. I'm not going to do anything else. But like they really, they shouldn't do that.
Yeah, they have strong opinions for people that don't do shit. Yeah, absolutely right.
Damn, Hapson, Saren calling out the Jades. Ooh.
Like enjoy Limsa. But like, don't have an opinion about Savage when you haven't done it or will not do it. And everyone really likes to be a part of discussions. That was a really hot topic a long time ago. The good old LBR days.
Wow. Oh, man. Do we need to get Nate back on the fucking show?
Nate's the one I was talking about. And Nero will be like, this is bullshit. Like, have you done Savage? No.
No.
like, Nate, I know you're just trying to rile people up. And it's working. It's really working.
I miss those days. I miss those days. Fuck.
As a Limsa dweller, I am offended.
I mean, just do both, man. Like, you could dwell in Limsa, like, just raid 2. Problem solved. In fact, I know you do, so you're fine.
He's talking
Don't worry about it. Yeah.
Yeah. It's not strictly Limsa dwellers. Just, you know, the most popular location.
I mean, I mentioned this on a mock talk.
I thought that was the quicksand.
No, no.
We're not going there.
What did you say on Mog Talk?
Just about how like things like this would be like a net positive for everyone. Like, you know, people that don't do Savage, like, yeah, they don't have to give a shit. Like, why would they pretend to care? Why would they have an opinion on it? If they're not going to do it, then like, why does it matter to you? Nothing about the content you do are going to change. Like, dungeons aren't going to change. Extremes probably won't change. Like, this is just stuff that appeals to the crowd that enjoy raiding. So I don't understand why people would get so riled up about it when, like, you know, it at least seems like, I mean, okay, we don't know this, but like, you know, I don't think any major changes to jobs are going to happen realistically, despite, you know, all this speculation. So, like, the comments are almost certainly about fight design, but you're not going to do it. So, like, why do you care? like you can just blissfully ignore it and still play the same job that you played in Endwalker.
Yeah,
Saren, I'm gonna hold you to that. I'm definitely gonna hold you to that comment. We're gonna see after media tour how this feels. I'm gonna hold you to that. Like no major changes, none.
I mean, okay, Dragoon's gonna change. We know that. And, like,
Fuck,
Astro's gonna
man,
change. We know
goddamn,
that. Okay.
shit.
All right, my bad. Yeah, true. My bad. But like for the most part, I don't think things are gonna change a whole lot. Like they've kind of hit their stride with like job design now. It's just that they tend to leave out like very obvious
Have they?
things.
I hope they haven't.
Okay, well, like while we're on the topic, quickly, like what do you want to see happen to Dragoon? Just briefly.
Not a goddamn thing.
it's one of those.
Okay, fair.
I mean, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But like, I'm trying to understand like what's broke besides Star Diver timing, which has always been a fucking thing. I've always wanted to fucking double weave Star Diver, but they won't let me. So there's that. Just the fact that like most jobs. Okay. The whole, hey, we have a mechanic that doesn't let anybody, jump, where it's our fucking identity and that's how we fucking build meter.
Yeah,
and
no.
Yeah, stop doing that,
makes
please.
Sense.
Just stop doing that.
Yeah, no, makes sense.
The fact that when we fucking die, like it is fucking punishing as shit because like it just ruins everything. Like, hey, we're about to go into 2 minutes. All right, I'll throw up the buffs here. You can have them, but shit, ain't doing shit.
Oh, fair, yeah. Similar complaints about Bard. Yeah. Overly punishing to die. Especially when it's not your fault.
I mean, there's a lot of jobs that are like punishing to die, but when we either die or when we can't press our buttons, we are behind. We are like behind the pack. Like we are not even there with you on our 2 minutes. Like we're like maybe 10 to 15 seconds behind. And it fucking sucks.
Mm-hmm.
For Bard, I'm telling you, make it so songs don't have cooldowns, and make it so you need to stay in a song for 30 seconds to get a buff. And then wherever you die, you just pick the song where you're supposed to be in your rotation, and you just go back to it.
Well, that's actually genius. I never would have thought of that. That's actually like a really good idea.
That's the one problem I want to fix with Bard's death. I just want to be able to go right back into the song where I'm supposed to be in my rotation.
The other problem I see with Dragoon right now is their basic melee combo takes up to 7 buttons on the hotbar.
It's a lot of buttons, Slidus.
Not really.
It's a few. If you throw
1,
Wormwind
2,
Thrust as a
3.
guaranteed one in there too, because you're guaranteed every 2 combos. That's off GCD, but
yeah, if you were including Wormwind, yeah, sure. But 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. Like it's not that bad, even though I put it on separate bars. But yeah,
I genuinely wouldn't be shocked if they put, if they put Fang and Claw and Wheeling Thrust on as skill upgrades instead of separate buttons. I genuinely wouldn't be shocked if it just replaces 1 and 2 with both of them.
On that topic,
that
do
wouldn't
either
shock
of
me
you
as
feel
well.
like
I mean, that wouldn't be a bad thing, honestly.
Anyway, we'll save that for the Melee show.
Yeah, I'm gonna have so much bourbon on the Melee show.
Good.
on that topic, do either of you feel like ranged do have button bloat? I mean, like Machinist doesn't. But do you think
There's
Dancer
a way
or
to
Bard do?
deal with it, though.
I don't know. On Bard, I have so much spare space. I actually put the same skill on multiple binds in case I'm like, I don't know. Sometimes it's like at certain points when like procs come up, I'm like in the middle of a different input. So sometimes different like hand positions feel like I have enough space to do that. And Dancer? No, I don't really feel that way on Dance because they have a handful of skills that already just insta upgrade into other stuff. So I don't know. Dancer is probably the closest. No, Bard and Dancer are pretty equal in terms of like how close they are to being bloated. But I'm not saying add more buttons. I'm just saying it's in an okay spot total.
I mean, they've got the devs are gonna do a good job of replacing lower tier skills with our newer quote unquote buttons. So I can kind of see them kind of doing that now.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's a problem.
Yeah, I think like Paladin has the biggest button bloat problem in the game. So
Yeah.
I'll leave that problem to the Paladins, and I'll just move on. All right, we're at a little bit past our usual end time, so at this point, I will say if there's anything else you didn't get off your chest that you'd like to quickly throw out there before we start to wind things down. Then this is the time.
I don't know. I like playing Raged. I do. I like the freedom. I'd never want that to go away unless like there's a good payoff. So, I mentioned the like moving while casting thing. Like I think that would just be a good thing to have in the game in general, perhaps to an extent, like as a general idea. But besides that, it's nice having freedom. I enjoy playing Phys-ranged. I hope they do good things. I'm not expecting like miracles. I would just if they just address like obvious things that like all three of us have mentioned, I already think Phys-ranged will be in a much better place. Like it's a lot easier to criticize the things you love. So, I've been a bit negative here and there, but it's because I want to see Phys-ranged make more sense and have very obvious things that would just make all three jobs feel way more satisfying to play. But apart from that, I don't have anything else to bring up, I don't think.
Sly?
I'm saving my shit till next week.
Now he's got melee brain. He doesn't want to talk about Phys-ranged. He's all in on on melee brain now. Can't blame you. Yeah, I feel like I'm fairly content, but I hope it isn't just a lot of flashy stuff and a lot of stuff that's even more swingy. But that's a general problem that's not exclusive to range. It just affects the range that I end up playing the most. Maybe next expansion, I'll actually get to hear Thornton yell more, though. I got to hear it like twice all throughout Prague on Bard.
What?
Oh. When I got to hear it, it was a miracle.
You get to hear that every fucking week for Unreal. Like, well, not every week. We had to like bring it.
I heard it on Sage this week in Unreal. I hit him with a direct crit phlegma. That man did not like that. The fully buffed, potted, direct crit phlegma. I got that. Okay. Well, with that, let us begin to sign off. I got to get over to the gym. I got a leg day waiting for me. Fun. I love leg day. All right. So, Saren, thank you for joining us for this fun little discussion about both benchmark and Phys-ranged and the suffering that we endure.
Thank you so much for having me on again. It was a pleasure.
All right. Why don't you tell everyone what you are doing and what your plans are for Dawn Trail and all that good stuff.
So you can find me on Twitch at Serenaya_Karen. You can find me on Twitter, the same name without the underscore. On stream, I'm not much of a YouTuber, but on stream, it's mostly just PFing our way to Dawn Trail right now. I'm doing some Terraria on the side, which has had me screaming more times than any PF ever has. But mostly FF, mostly like EUPF, mostly just chatting, hanging out, having a good time, watching a video here and there. And plans for Dawn Trail, MSQ day one, get it done. I will not be watching cutscenes, at least not on my main. Streaming like 12, 15 hours a day because I'll be up early to avoid queues. Can't wait for the queues again. Oh my god.
No queues this time, I promise.
So, surely not. But yeah, that's about it. Just gonna go hard, have fun, and hope our dreams come true, I guess. But yeah, no, that's about it. Thank you so much for having me on, Happy and Sly. It was a pleasure to talk to you again.
Good to have you. Yeah. Sly, I know they get to hear from us every week, so they know full and well what we're doing over the next 2 months. So let's just do a quick reminder.
Yeah, you can find me at twitch.tv/Sly, aka Gray Fox. Twitter at Sly, aka Gray Fox. Over the next few months, well, I've started playing Dragon Quest 11 again because I've finally finished, Dragon's Dogma 2 and P3 Reload. So I'm finally able to get back to Dragon Quest. Yay. Again, baby's first Dragon Quest, and it's a fun one. Other than that, May is Read Only Memories, Neurodiver. So I'm replaying the original Read Only Memories up to the release of Neurodiver. I kind of want to do Ayuden Chronicles, but I don't have the time. Is SMT5 Vengeance, and I want all my homies on SMT5 Vengeance, even my Final Fantasy homies on SMT5 Vengeance. I know this guy ain't gonna do it, but I've been thinking about doing a video about that, like for the Fin Fan fam, who've
what did you just say?
The Fin Fan fam.
All right, yeah.
Final Fantasy fam.
Okay.
Yeah. For y'all,
I tell you what,
who've mainly probably only played Persona, I've been thinking about doing a video because like my friend has just recently popped over from Persona and then played Nocturne, and it just changed his life. So I've been thinking about doing a video trying to get y'all into Megaten. I'm thinking about
it's crazy how they released Persona and then copied it with the Shin Megami Tensei.
You shut your whore fucking mouth. God damn it.
Damn.
See, this is why I want to make this fucking videos. Oh man. Oh my god. But yeah, like I've been thinking about doing a video about that. Other than that, first Saturday coming up May 4th. Which I already have the theme in mind. You could probably guess it if you're really good because something else happens on May 4th. But I'll let you ponder on that one. But other than that, yeah, that's what's going on. Haps, what's up with you?
Yeah, no need to force anyone to figure out what's happening May 4th.
I mean,
Sly, force them to find out.
I hate it.
It's not even that. No, it's not even that.
Come on
It's
now.
not even that.
I felt like that was an easy one.
Okay, besides Star Wars, there's something else happening on a Saturday on May 4th.
All right. Well, then your hint was terrible because almost everyone would have thought Star Wars.
That's what I thought. Yeah.
Yeah. Precisely.
I thought you were just.
I mean, it's okay. It's a mainly
Quattro de Mayo. Fucking Quattro de Mayo. That's you know what?
It's mainly a Southern American thing. So there's that. Good luck.
All right. Anyway, Mr. Happy here. I'm releasing a bunch of videos about stuff, mostly 14 and 16 right now. It's about to be very busy because Ayuden Chronicles will be out soon. Saga Emerald Beyond will be out soon. Grand Blue Relink update is now officially the same day as Stellar Blade, so that's fucking thrilling.
Bro, I can't wait to play Twain, man. I really want to play it.
Yeah, I think I'm buying Twain and farming Seofun just because I want to play
really?
Twain. Yeah, I don't want to listen. I know how long it takes to get Twain to farm in the mobile game, so I'm not taking any chances with that one. So yeah, so there's a whole bunch of stuff that I'll just be trying to make time for. And on top of that, I have 2 other Dawn Trail related things in the works. I have my on-release cosplay, which is still being worked on, of the Viper Warrior of the Warrior of Lightness Viper outfit. That'll be fun for launch day. And my new start screen, which is being made by the same artist who made my current start screen, Josh. Last week he was like, "Oh, I'm thinking about doing a few commissions again." I'm like, "Sir?" He's like, "Okay." Didn't even wait for him to open commission. I was just like, he's like, "Okay, come on. What do you got? Let me know. Tell me." So that's in the works right now too. So I'm excited to reveal both of those probably in the next, I don't know, when they're done. In the maybe month and a half. I don't know. That's what I've got going on. The only other thing I've got going on is the gym. So with that, thank you everybody for watching today's episode. I will have last week's show posted later today and this week's show posted tomorrow. And then next week's show is a Melee show. And we'll just be continuing to roll down the list. Yeah. I don't know why you're excited, Mr. Rework Dragoon.
There's going to be so much bourbon on that episode. It's going to be funny.
You might live in the South, but next week's going to be all about True North. Anyway. So moving on. Slice doesn't like that one. You didn't Dragon Sight that one coming, did you?
So that's going to be our show for today.
God.
Thank you guys so much for coming out. We really appreciate and love all of you. Until next week, take care, and we'll see you soon.
Bye.